Hey, what's going on, everybody? TheFormalPickle here. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going to show you guys how to set up your OBS for those of you who want to record videos in Farming Sim or really any other type of videos. I'm going to go through the basics on OBS here today to get you up to speed on how to record, and then we'll go through the advanced stuff on a later date. Real quick, I apologize. There's no actual farming content coming out today. I've been super busy with some other work stuff. As you guys know, I have a full-time job, and then I do YouTube, and then I also have my own other business. And that other business I've been real busy with here for the last few days, and hopefully that'll slow down. I mean, not necessarily hopefully that'll slow down, but hopefully we'll be able to get back to more regular schedule. But anyways, let's get into this. So when you open up OBS after you've downloaded it from a link provided in the description below, you're going to see essentially this window. Now, your profile settings aren't going to be the same as mine are here. So we're going to actually go ahead and I'm going to create a new profile, and we're going to call it tutorial. And that way my profile settings will reset to what you will see when you install this software. So everything is now stock, except for perhaps my layout. I might have my layout customized a little bit differently than you will find. But it's very simple. So your scenes over here, they are essentially the different groups. Now, in a live stream, it can get a lot more technical and a lot more advanced. In fact, I'll go to my streaming. Actually, we'll go to default. No, we'll go to, okay, not profile. We'll go to my default, what I already have set up. And here you guys will see this is my record screen. But if I take us over here to, say, the game screen, you can now see this is what I do when I stream. Hi, everyone. Hi, how's it going? Webcam is set up. And then we go to the intermission screen, and we'll see this is now my intermission screen, and we have all of our sources in here. So the scenes are just like a collection of sources, and then those sources, you can differ to whatever it is that you need, okay? So let's break this down. Let's go back to the tutorial scene collection. So it's back to how you guys have it. What you're going to do is click this little plus icon down here in the bottom right, and this will allow you to create a new scene. Now, I already have one created here. You'll have one created by default, so I'm not going to go ahead and do that. We're assuming you're here to record today, since that is going to be the simplest under a basic setup. So you have scene number 1. Now, if you wanted to, you could rename this by right-clicking on the scene and going up to rename. And you could change this to, say, perhaps record, right? So there we go. We have a record scene. Now you're going to click on the plus icon here in the sources. Let's say you want to add your game capture. There are a couple ways you could go about this. Number 1, you could put a display capture. You could rename that if you wish. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then you can select, if you have multiple displays, which one you want it to display. We're going to leave it on this one. And you can also say whether or not you want it to see your cursor. So if you don't want it to see your cursor, which is the little mouse, then you can uncheck that here. But we're going to leave it checked and click OK. Now, you'll see we're getting this weird infinite thing going on here. If I drag it down, you'll see my background a little bit more there. But that is a display capture. That's going to capture everything on your display. That's going to capture, you know, if you open up Steam here, that's going to capture your Steam. It's going to capture everything. If you only want to capture your game and nothing else, then we're going to remove that by right-clicking on it, clicking remove, and then clicking yes. We're going to add a source that is a game capture, okay? So we're going to click on game capture. Now you could rename this. Once again, I'm not going to. Now in here, you could have it set up to either capture any full screen application. So if you run your game in full screen, it will capture that automatically. You can have it set to capture a specific window, which is what I personally do. And then you would go in and select Farming Sim 19 or whatever game it is you're trying to capture. I don't have my game running at the moment, so we're not seeing it here in the window option. So to select that, you would have to go into your Steam, you'd have to launch Farming Sim, and then re-enter OBS here to find that in your window drop down here. But we're going to go ahead and say capture any full screen application, and you have some other settings in here that you don't really need to touch. Again, capture cursor. If you don't want to see your cursor, you can uncheck that here. You can also limit your capture frame rate, as well as some other things that you most likely will not need to touch. So then you just click OK, and that's it for getting the game video capture. Now, you will have some audio set up over here default normally. I believe you should, at least with your computer. But if you don't, if it's like mine, we're going to go through the settings here real quick. But you guys get the idea. You click the plus icon, click game capture, add the game capture, leave it on full screen, or select a window if you have your game running, and click OK. We are going to delete that once again here. Not rename, we're going to delete it, remove, there we go. Now I'm going to show you some additional settings information here, because you may or may not have stuff in your audio mixer. I do not, and I'm going to show you how you can get stuff in your audio mixer by default, or by having more refined control, which is why I don't have mine in the audio mixer already. We're going to click on settings down here in the bottom right. This is going to bring up your settings window. Surprise, surprise. Here in the general tab, there is not really anything you're going to need to check. All of this is standard. Now you can customize these things when you want to get more advanced, but you're not going to need to. Perhaps you would like to have it confirm when you start and stop recordings or along those lines. You don't have to. Stream, you'll not need to do anything because you're not streaming. Now here in output, right now we're on simple, and for the sake of the tutorial, we're going to leave it on simple. In recording, you can set where it records to, so you can pick your file path by clicking browse, finding the destination that best suits you wherever you want it to record to. In my case, I would record to that right there, the TheFormalPickle FS19 videos raw. You can have it record in the same quality as your streaming encoding, although I would recommend not doing that. What we're going to do is high quality medium file, okay? That's what we're going to do. And now, here's an interesting thing. Recording format, I personally will record in MP4 to ensure the highest quality. But know that if you record in MP4 format, and if OBS crashes, your computer crashes, or anything along those lines, you will lose your recording. So that is something to note. It is higher quality, but you will lose your recording. So if you don't want to lose that, if something does crash, you can record in MKV, FLV. Just know whether or not your specific video editing software will allow these formats. MP4 is allowed across the board on all softwares, so that is what I personally record in. Once you've made your changes in here that you want to make, you can go ahead and click apply. Now we're going to move on to the audio tab. Here in audio, we get a bunch of different things. Now, normally this would be enabled to default, and I believe this would also be enabled to default. I'm going to apply that. So this is what some of you might see, because those are going to be enabled to default most likely, but I'm going to go ahead and disable those because I do not want them on this screen. Now, if you want to, you could leave those on default, and if they capture your mic and desktop already, great. But I'm going to go ahead and disable those once again. We're going to go into Video tab, and here we can see my base canvas resolution is 1920 by 1080. That is my monitor's resolution. We have output resolution, which is what it's going to record or stream in. In this case, we're only recording, and we can see that's set to 720. Now, if you have a computer that cannot handle recording because it can be hard on your CPU, depending on your settings, you may have to lower this down to 720, but I would recommend recording in the maximum frame or in the maximum resolution that you can of 1920 by 1080. If you do have a 4K monitor, you could record in 4K, although that is once again going to be more taxing on your computer. We're not going to need to change the downscale filter, but you might want to mess with your common FPS value, your frames per second here. Industry standard would be 24 FPS for film. But for YouTube, I would recommend either recording 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. Personally, for video game content, I record in 60 frames per second. Once again, depending on your computer's abilities, this will be more taxing than 30 frames per second, so select whichever one you feel your computer can handle best. You could even do some test recordings to find out. We're going to click Apply. Then in here, in hotkeys, you can set up buttons on your keyboard that when you press them, they perform a certain task. This is most useful for starting and stopping your recording. So you can just click in the box here. And I'm going to click some random key that usually pretty much will never get clicked. So I'm going to go with like the plus key on my numpad to start. And then I'm going to go with the minus key on my numpad to stop. We're going to click Apply. And then you have more advanced information in here with what you're rendering under and your color format, color space. You're not going to need to touch any of this for a basic setup. So we're going to click OK. So we've got our settings set now to 1920 by 1080, 60 FPS. That's the most important information for you to have here. So we're going to go back and we're going to re-enable this game capture because I deleted it earlier. I'm going to leave it at that. Now, we're not seeing anything once again because I don't have my game running. But if your game was running, you would see it pop up in this window full screen. So we're going to click the plus icon and I'm going to add an audio input capture. Now, this is how I prefer to do it because I get more control depending on the scenes. But for a basic one, you don't have to do it this way. You could do it the way that I showed earlier in the settings under audio. You could just enable it here. We could go to default, or you could go to whatever you know your router is set up to. Now, I have a bunch of different audio routing stuff, so I would personally set mine to VB audio voice meter. It's going to be right. I'm trying to find it now. It would be this one right here. This is personally what I would set mine up to. And then my mic would be set to USB audio CODEC. Personally, these are my settings. You might be under default depending on what you have for your setup. But I'm going to go ahead and click Apply. So now we can see in the simple way of doing it, we already have a mic input and we would have desktop input if I was to play some audio of some sort here real quick. I think I might have some video assets I can play somewhere in here just to give you guys an idea. Okay, yeah, we're going to play this. Hi, it's me. I'm the Pickle. Obviously, today, that's one of my old videos, but we can see it's playing right in there. I'm going to turn that off now. But you can see it was playing in the desktop audio. Now, one thing to note is we are heavily into the red here, so we might want to change our levels. So I would turn this one down. Again, I don't have anything playing, so you're going to want to do that when you have something playing so you can get an idea. Essentially, you want it to be in the yellow, but at the top of the yellow, not really peeking into the red. So I would probably set this one right here. Looks like it's going to be the best. We're not peeking into the red, and we're hitting fully into the yellow. Your desktop audio, you very well might want to turn that down, in fact, a lot more, so your voice is louder than the game volume. That is something that I would suggest doing. Now, if you do have Discord calls with people, you're probably going to want to turn this back up, unless you're routing your audio a bunch of different ways like I am, but that is very complex, and we'll get into that in another video. So, another thing that I would recommend doing is clicking on the little settings wheel, and then going to filters. Now here in filters, we can add audio filters. One of the things that I like to add is a compressor. So we're just going to click on the compressor and click OK. We're not going to change any of the settings here. What compressor does is when I get really quiet, it's going to try and level me back up to the yellow as close as possible. And when I get really loud, it's going to try and keep me from peaking. As we can see here, it's doing a terrific job of that. Our audio is not getting distorted and it's staying very regular. Another thing that we could add, if wanted, is noise suppression or a noise gate. Noise suppression will kind of suppress background noise that potentially is there. Now, if you have something loud, if there's something, you know, very loud, then it's not going to suppress that. But if there is a, for example, a fan on your computer that you can hear just so slightly, you can add noise suppression, and it probably will actually fix the problem right here on the default, but you may have to play with the slider a little bit to get it fine-tuned. Another thing that we could add, if needed, is a noise gate. What a noise gate will do is disable your mic when you are not talking to ensure there is no audio coming through. If you don't get this set right, this one is more advanced and more difficult to get set right with these two sliders, closed threshold and open threshold. We'll go through that on another video. But if you don't get these set right, it can kind of cut off your words when you start talking, and it sounds a little strange. So perhaps, unless you know what you're doing with this closed and open threshold here, I would not touch the noise gate personally. Now, if you ever want to remove any of them, obviously, you just right-click and you can click Remove, and then you say Yes. I'm going to go ahead and close that. You could do the same to your desktop audio. I personally do run at least a compressor on all of my audio sources, but this is all a little bit more towards the advanced side of things, and it is subjective to your opinion. The final thing that we can go into is if one of these audios that are already pre-set up for you, or if you need to set one up yourself and it's not picking up the right audio source, you can go into the settings cog once again. You can click on Properties, and here you can change where the audio is coming from once again. So like we can see here, I could take it from my webcam if I wanted to, and now it's picking up the audio from the webcam. But that won't sound as good as my microphone, so we're going to go back to the microphone. Fairly simple, fairly easy to do, and if you don't have these already set up here, and if you don't want to go into the settings under audio to set them up, if they are disabled and you want to leave them disabled for some reason, then I will show you another way of getting your audio. So another option would be clicking on the plus icon right down here, going to audio input capture. You could rename this if you have multiple audio sources, but I'm going to leave it unnamed. Stand by. I'm going to do that again. Audio input capture. I'm going to leave it unnamed. Click OK. Now here you can choose your audio source. Once again, I would choose my microphone and click OK. Now we would have to go through and redo our levels and everything because we deleted everything we had done previously, but now you'll see your audio input capture is right here in your sources. So now if you wanted to, you could hide that and it would mute it. You could bring it back and it would unmute it. Another option would be to push this right here and it would mute it, and then select it again and it would unmute it if needed. To get your desktop audio, you click the plus, go to audio output capture, rename it if you wish, and then you're going to do whatever one you have set up. Most of you, it's going to be default, but for me personally, it would be voice meter, VIO. It's in this massive list of somewhere here. You get the idea. Mine would be somewhere in this list that I can never seem to find. It's right here. And I would select OK. So that's pretty much everything. Now we have a video capture. We have our game and mic audio set up. Again, make sure your levels are good for the recording so you're not peeking into the red so it doesn't distort. And then all you would have to do is click on Start Recording. Once you're done recording, click on Stop Recording, which will be in the same slot right here. In fact, I'll drag over my other instance of OBS to show you what I'm talking about, because this is the OBS I'm actually recording this on right now. We see Stop Recording. I could also pause the recording if I wished to. And then your video will appear in wherever you told it to send the video to. So for me, that would be in Standby, that would be in Raw, and it would appear right here. We can actually see it's making the video right now. We're not going to be able to preview this because it is still being recorded on my end. But if I stopped the video, which I'm not going to, it would be a playable video here, and you would just put that into your editing software. So that's a basic setup of OBS. There is a lot more that this program can do. It is super, super powerful. It is a very powerful program that you really, it takes a long time to master and a long time to learn. But if you guys want to see more videos on this going more in depth, into everything, maybe how to set up for streaming, maybe how to set up for multi-audio track recordings. I am a master at OBS. I know this program like the back of my hand, so I will be willing to help you guys out. But that is the basic setup for OBS, Open Broadcast Software. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please comment them down below. I will do my best to assist you. If there's anything you would like to see specifically made into a video on how to do it, let me know in the comments once again. Until next time, guys, my name is TheFormalPickle. Hopefully you found this useful, and I will see you guys later.